Hey everyone, how are you? This video is going to have a bit of a different tone. So I've been working my way through a very large video on voting and violence, but there have been some things I'm seeing recently that I just had to point out or I was going to lose my damn mind. I was watching a video recently from a guy by the name of Vlad Vexler. He's got a YouTube channel specializing in political philosophy, especially around Russia and Ukraine, but also the US, and I'll put a link in the description to his channel. Anyway, Vlad was talking about the difference between opponents and enemies. It's one thing to have opponents, like in a boxing match. You're on different sides, but you're playing the same game, and you're aiming broadly towards the same goals. You shake hands after the match, you can have respect for the other guy. Enemies, on the other hand, are just there to destroy each other. And in democratic politics, and here I mean democratic with a small d, you're supposed to have political opponents, people who, in general, believe in the same system of democratic principles, who believe in rights and equality and all of that, but maybe they just disagree on how to get there. You can work with these people, you can compromise, you can make progress. The MAGA movement is not a political opponent. We have to be very, very, very clear. They are our enemies. Now, I also want to be very, very, very clear that I'm not talking about MAGA voters. I'm not talking about the well-meaning people who get bamboozled into this nonsense by watching Fox News. I'm talking about the people with power. The people in the know, the people making the decisions. Anyone who is associated with MAGA that's a high-level political operative or an elected official, they are pure evil. They are our enemies. You cannot reason with them. You cannot negotiate with them. You cannot make deals with them, cooperate with them, or even acknowledge them as legitimate political rivals. They are monsters who need to be eliminated from our body politic by any means short of physical violence. And it is time to call these freaks out for what they are, because they sure as hell aren't playing the same game we are. They are not invested in the democratic process. They intend to destroy it. Let me explain what I mean. I was watching an interview recently with Senator Tim Scott, Senator Uncle Tom. A reporter was asking him a simple, basic question: will he accept the results of the 2024 election? And Uncle Tom's response: at the end of the day, the 47th President of the United States will be President Donald Trump. When pressed, Senator Uncle Tom repeated himself: well, ma'am, massa gonna be my massa forever and ever. Yes, I'm his favorite Negro. Now, I'll admit that that second bit was slightly paraphrased, but only slightly. There was a ton of noise this week about Trump's social media posting about the unified Reich, but frankly, all of Trump's Hitler quotes are like 9,000th down on the list of sayings that we should be worried about. This is the shit that we have to be worried about. The fact that a sitting U.S. senator simply cannot admit that he will accept the results of an election if it doesn't go his way is utterly insane. And I understand that people can have legitimate disagreements in politics, just as in anything else important. You know, it's like raising a baby. Sometimes parents can disagree on things, even if they both love the baby and they want what's best for it. But there are some basic things that we must agree on, like not eating the baby. You know, accepting election results is the democratic equivalent of not eating the baby. It is the foundation. Without that, you have nothing. And it's just so shocking, so disgusting to watch a black man sell out his principles and his country for this dog shit MAGA movement that looks at people like him as less than human. Let me give an example. Just recently, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas pardoned a man named Daniel Perry. What did Perry do? During the BLM protests of 2020, Perry started freaking about all of these uppity Negroes. He's the type of guy who, in text messages, referred to black protesters as monkeys. Perry was an Uber driver, and he saw a BLM protest while at a red light. So first, in a show of real class and public spiritedness, Perry just ran the light and went straight into the crowd of protesters. He was then approached by a man named Garrett Foster. Garrett was a veteran with an African-American wife who decided to get involved in the protest. You know, you'd think he would get a warm reception in Texas. This is a veteran. He's openly, legally carrying his AK-47 style rifle. He's a gun guy. You know, you'd think the Texans that they would love him. But no. Because Garrett was also married to a black woman, and he believed that black lives actually do matter, so Perry shot him dead. Witnesses at the scene were very clear that Garrett Foster didn't brandish his weapon or act in a threatening way at all. Perry just killed him anyway. And now, Abbott pardoned him. You know, leave aside what this insane situation says about the insanity of some of these open carry laws. What Perry did was the plainest type of murder. Further examination of his electronic communications showed just how excited Perry was to go out and kill some brown people. He was even looking for opportunities to get paid to kill Muslims in Europe, and Abbot pardoned him. Now this racist murderer is being lionized by the right, just like Rittenhouse before him, despite being, if anything, even more of a disgusting, vile bastard. And I've seen a lot of commentators online asking, how could he? Why did Abbot do this? What was he trying to prove? Well, I think it's simple. Greg Abbott and the entire MAGA movement don't see black people or those who stand with them as actual human beings. Killing them isn't murder, it's a hobby. MAGA looks at Tim Scott and sees nothing more than a damn dirty nigger. And they look at people like Garrett Foster or myself or my friends who go to these protests as nothing but nigger lovers who deserve what we get. And this is what we're dealing with here. And yet Senator Uncle Tom is just fine with it. You know, he's just fine if he can get a few more segments on Fox News, if he gets invited to a few more dinners in Mar-a-Lago to be paraded around like a monkey that they think he is. That's worth it to him. He's willing to damn not just his fellow African Americans, but all of us. By refusing to accept valid election results, Scott is slowly tearing down this democracy that protects all of our rights. And Senator Uncle Tom isn't the only one. There's a goddamn raft of them. Rubio, Cruz, Stefanik, all of them are preemptively casting down on the 2024 election, and they're doing it by making claims that they know are lies. All of these assholes have Ivy League education or near to it. They know that there is no freaking election fraud. Rubio was particularly odious. He made the claim that the Democrats opposed every Republican victory since 2000. This is horseshit. Not once, not one single time, has any Democratic presidential nominee ever refused to concede an election. Not once. In 2000, where the vote count really was so damn close that it was within a margin of error, Democrats went through legal channels to do a recount. And in fact, that recount seemed like it would have led to a Gore victory had it concluded. But SCOTUS put a stop to it, and that was that. The courts made their decision, and the Democrats accepted it. In 2016, Hillary conceded. She could have done what Trump tried to do and asked then VP Joe Biden to block the certification of the election due to blatant interference by a foreign power, but she didn't. She accepted the results. In fact, it was Rubio himself who led the Senate Intelligence Committee that proved Russian interference. He knows all of this. And yet he's making a comparison to Trump's bullshit lies about voter fraud, especially when, to this day, Trump has not conceded the 2020 election. These ass clowns all know better. The way that they all bend over, acquiesce, cave in, like the spineless worms they all are. In particular, I want to call out Mitch McConnell, that absolute disgrace. If only he had the decency to die like a man. I guess it particularly bothers me when these people actually pretend to have a shred of virtue. McConnell, for example, who prides himself on being an institutionalist and a real leader in foreign policy, he himself has admitted Trump was at fault for January 6th. He said that on the freaking floor of the Congress. More than that, he has said that the war in Ukraine is the greatest issue of our time, while Trump does everything in his power to prevent a Ukrainian victory. For God's sakes, Trump called his wife a Chinese agent. But no, McConnell bends over and kisses Trump's taint. Likewise with Nikki Haley. A few weeks ago, she called Trump out for literally inviting a foreign dictator, Putin, to invade Europe. And when Trump banned her and her supporters from MAGA, she started selling freaking t-shirts with that on it, milking it for all it's worth, pretending to have an ounce of backbone or conviction. She's also voting for him now. And why? Because he supports our allies. Are you fucking kidding me, bitch? You watched this ass clown sell out all of our allies, not only on TV, but while you were UN ambassador in his administration. Not to mention the fact that Trump went after her husband and her son personally, just like he does with all these fuckers. They don't care about policy. They don't care about anything. Forget about the truth or the principle or good policy. These asshats don't even care about their families. I bet you that if Trump raped their wives just like he did to E. Jean Carroll, every one of these Republicans would still vote for him. Hell, they'd thank him and say, here, take my daughter too. Anything for a little bit more money, a little bit more power, a little bit more fame. And for what? What do these people do with their power? They just fuck with people. Let me give you an example. For those of us living in reality, global warming is a thing. The world is getting hotter. That means when heat waves happen, they happen a lot worse than they used to. And this has been especially noticeable in places that were already on the warmer side, like Texas and Florida. In fact, the heat waves over the last couple of years really strained the infrastructure in those places. So you had a lot of workers coming in to fix it. And these are hard-working people, construction workers, tradesmen, many of them not white, some of them not even U.S. citizens, but we need them anyway. You know, they went out into the heat so that RACs would work. But the heat was so severe and the working conditions so strenuous that several of these people literally died on the job. In response, several jurisdictions passed laws mandating short, 5 to 15-minute breaks for these guys. That's not a lot to ask, just a few minutes a day to get some damn water. So these guys busting their asses for us can cool down and catch their breaths. It seems like a, nice, reasonable thing to do, which is why Republicans absolutely hated it. Abbot signed a law about a year ago banning the fucking water breaks. I mentioned that bit in a previous video, but now DeSantis has come out and done the same thing in Florida. I ask you, what is wrong with these freaks? Who does that? These states have real problems. Their infrastructure just cannot handle the changes that are coming. People will die. But the Republicans have no interest in actually addressing real problems. No, they just want to take people who are already struggling, already working hard, and just fuck them into the dirt. And I say that they do it for money or for power, but here we're talking about such a pittance, it wouldn't even make any difference. It's like a couple bucks for these guys for their breaks. They're just doing this for the joy of watching other people suffer and die. That is what the Republican Party is. That is what MAGA is. And I can find few more perfect examples of this than something I saw from a guy named John McEntee. He was head of personnel under Trump, and might well be his next chief of staff if Trump's elected. Now, I'd heard McEntee was a nasty piece of work from Jessica Denson. She's a reformed Trump supporter who now does a podcast on Midas Touch. Extremely nice lady, gives a lot of detail of what it was like working for Trump. I've got a link in the description. So she had some choice things to say about McEntee. But I really had no idea until I saw this video. Now remember, McEntee chose to make and post this video on his social media account. Nobody held a gun to his head and made him say this. He actually thought it was cool. He starts talking about how he always carries some counterfeit money with him so that he could give it to the homeless. He does this so that he could feel good about himself when they thank him for the money, but also because when the homeless person tries to spend that money for food or something, it's going to get them arrested. Now, let's not forget, by the way, that George Floyd was killed for passing a fake bill. What if he didn't know it was fake? What if the poor homeless guy tries to buy himself a sandwich and ends up getting shot? I had to sit down when I first heard that. That smarmy little fuck had to actually put time into this. He had to take precious minutes or hours of his life thinking this up, preparing the fake bills, etc. All of that effort spent just to fuck with people. And not just anybody, but the most desperate, the most needy, people who've done nothing to him and are just looking for a hint of kindness. People, listen to me. This is what evil looks like. When you stare into the eyes of someone like John McEntee or Ted Cruz or Donald Trump, you are looking into the eyes of hell itself. These are not human beings. They are freaks. They are monsters. They're the type of creatures who would skin a man just to watch him die. I'm not joking or exaggerating. Moreover, there are a lot more than just the ones I've mentioned. Charlie Kirk is another one. He's the guy who runs Turning Point USA, which is an organization for young MAGA people. He's got a podcast, and I saw a clip where he's talking with these two other guys, and they're going into detail about how they would want to execute a trans person. Or you could listen to Stephen Miller, who also works for Trump, talking about rounding up 15 million illegal immigrants who are poisoning the blood of our country. You know, I'm a Jew, and my whole life I've been thinking about the Holocaust. How could it have happened? How could anyone do something so horrible? What kind of person would do this? Now I know. It's so easy for me to imagine McEntee and Kirk dressed up as SS, standing over a cell full of trans people and illegal immigrants, rubbing their hands together in glee, thinking of all the ways that they're going to slowly torture these people to death. They get off on this. please, everyone, you have to understand, MAGA is evil. We cannot give power to these people. Best case scenario, they don't give a damn whether we live or die. Worst case scenario, they masturbate to fucking killing us. Okay? Vote blue. Thank you. Thanks for watching that, guys. I really appreciate it. If you liked that video, then please like the video. And also subscribe. That will be really, really helpful. And most of all, please leave a comment if you can. Because firstly, it really helps algorithmically. And also, I'm pretty new at this, and I could use the feedback. So if you could do that and also share these videos with your relatives and friends, that would be really nice. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.